from each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are, from memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried, and with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight, reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And we are back today with the 107th Disney feature-length film from October the 18th of the year 1972. It is a film called Run, Cougar, Run.
Had you ever heard of it before?
Absolutely not.
Me either.
Absolutely not. But you know who had heard of it before? The person that wrote the book that it's based off of, and it's based off of a book titled The Mountain Lion by Robert William Murphy. Would you like to start us off with a synopsis about Run, Cougar, Run, the 107th Disney feature-length film?
Sure. In Utah, the idyllic existence of a mountain lion family is threatened when tourists bent on sport hunting cougars make their appearance.
Thoughts?
Well, that pretty much sums up the movie. So,
Yeah.
it was probably the shortest, most spot-on summary we've read thus far.
For our loyal listeners, go back to our Bambi episode to hear my rant about hunting, but that's a whole other ballgame. Any opening thoughts before we dive right in? All right.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a live action film, much in the vein of all the animal movies that we watched a few decades ago. But this time it's got that man taste, kind of like I don't remember the name of the movie, but the one that we watched that was like in Canada, and the dogs were like fighting each other.
Nikki?
Probably. But would you like to dive right in?
I think it was Nikki Wild Dog Go
Yeah,
North
probably.
or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
sure. All right. So this movie is starring a mountain lion named Sita.
Mhm.
Do you have anything to say about Sita?
Hope she got her Actors Guild credits for this film.
All right. So anyway, the movie opens up with our mountain lion friend roaming a canyon area, and it talks about the big cat of North America being the mountain lion. It also talked about them being called mountain lions, pumas, cougars, and a few other names, but I don't remember what they were. Anyway, so Sita returns to her den with her cubs, and they refer to them in this movie as kittens. And it talked about how at home with her kittens, and she was at peace with the world. And then it showed that there was a male around, which was her mate, and they were very playful. And it talked about how mountain lions, once they're mated, they're typically a mated pair for life. And then the male would go off hunting, but the mother would stay close to the den so that way she could make sure that the kittens were safe. So the father's duty basically was to provide for the family while she made sure they were safe. And then it talked about how cougar kittens, like all other kittens, are very curious. They got into some mischief. And then we're back with the father on his hunting trip. Enter a beaver in his dam. The cougar, I guess, thought that this would make a wonderful meal and tried to attack the beaver, but the beaver was able to give him the slip. The cougar then ended up in the water, but obviously they can swim, and they weren't as mad as some of the other cats that we have seen in the water. They kind of reminded me of the Jaguars, in the other movie that Jungle Cat, was it?
Mhm.
Where they actually do swim. So, and our cat Winston is kind of fascinated with water, so not all cats hate water, I guess. Um, then back home at the den with mom, we find out that she found her territory, and when she had found that originally, she had heard some music and became curious and went to listen. So she still makes it a point to this day to stop and listen to the music. And the guy that plays the music knows her and sings to her.
And all the animals.
Yes. And he tells her that they had also had a new listener, which was a baby fawn that had also come to listen to the music.
Just as importantly, we have a Disney owl too.
Yes, there was a Disney owl. The sheep herder that's playing the music is the same guy from the previous movie, and I did not write the name
A
down.
couple movies ago.
Did you write
Previous movie was Napoleon and Samantha. The movie before that was the movie that he was in, which was the Scandalous John,
Yeah,
and his name, I forgot what his name was, but he was a guy who played
the companion.
the companion. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was a great actor. He was probably literally the only
I mean, he was the only part of the good part
saving
of the last film too. So
part of this movie, yeah. So anyway, however, in another scene, we see that there's a new man in the area, who was a hunter that specializes in hunting mountain lions, and he was moving into her territory. So he's kind of like looking around to see like if there's mountain lions in the area because he makes money by bringing other hunters in to specifically hunt mountain
yeah, he's in
lions.
a helicopter.
And we find out later in the film that basically the state finds mountain lions to be a nuisance and will actually offer you a bounty if you kill mountain lions, which I don't know how accurate that was. But anyway, so it talked about how Sita found out, finally was able to feel what it felt like to be hunted instead of being the hunter. Because he's like hovering over her territory with the helicopter, like Jeff mentioned, and she was seen. So he knows that there's a mountain lion in the area. So he's gonna come back to this area. Then backtrack back to the father's hunting trip. He is now hunting a deer, and we come to see some visuals of him pouncing on a deer during his hunt, and it's very reminiscent of falling down the hole in Alice in Wonderland. Do you have anything to add to
No.
that? Very dizzy, if you would say. And then the hunter stops, goes to another scene back to the hunter. He stops to talk to the sheep herder and ask if he has seen any mountain lions in the area. The sheep herder tells him that he is doing wrong and that pretty soon there's going to be no mountain lions. So he's basically spoke his piece about, I don't agree with what you're doing. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing, and then just walks away. Um, and then backtrack again because this movie goes back and forth a lot. We go back to the father on his hunting trip, and we see that he is planning on sharing his kill with the mother. But when they come back, they have to fight off a black bear first because
Disney loves black bears.
Yes. However, after a long drawn out scene that could have been much shorter, how they just united fronts in the beginning, the dad's trying to chase off the bear by himself. But enter Sita, and he's like, oh, now it's two against me. Oh, I'm just gonna leave. So then he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Had she stepped up before, none of this would have happened. So they're able to get their kill. And then we see that the father has an interaction with the sheep herder, and the sheep herder is going up like this embankment to save a stray lamb. And then he sees the father, mountain lion, and asks, are you Sita? And then, oh, you're not Sita, you're her husband. And he's like, well, there's gonna be no trouble. And then he just talks to this mountain lion like they're friends or acquaintances that of mutual friends, and he picks up the lamb and starts going down. However, it looks like the father mountain lion is very curious about what's going on, so he starts to follow him down to his encampment area where all the sheep are. Um, However, the dog of the sheep herder runs past him and basically chases the father off, and he doesn't mess with it anymore. Um, and then the ranch owner has his own interaction with the hunter, and um, the hunter's kind of explaining how he does things, and his plan is to go up into the area where he saw Sita, and he is going to dart her or the mate with a tranquilizer, and then once they are out, he's going to catch them and bring them home and put them in a cage and then set them free, so that way they have a slight head start, but then let the hunters go and kill them.
Mhm. For games. Again, go back to our Bambi episode.
I
And
was
hear my
just
ranting
like,
about
if
hunting.
you can't hunt an animal in its natural habitat and you have to tranquilize it and cage it and then let it free, I don't think you're really a hunter. That to me counts as being a poacher. Because what is the game in that? Anyway,
I mean, this movie has poached our time, so continue.
I guess. So anyway, at night we're back at a night scene with the sheep herder, and he's singing to all of his animal friends. There's a raven, an owl, a rabbit, obviously the sheep, his dog, and then Sita and her mate show up. Sita has listened to him sing pretty much, like I said, since she found the territory, but her mate has come along this time, which apparently it talked about how he avoided humans because he knew that that meant nothing but trouble and pain. So they're here, they're all watching the music performance by the sheep herder. But then in the next morning, we see that there's a pack of hunting dogs chasing the mountain lions. The mountain lions take off in separate directions to increase their chances of escape. The father makes himself the decoy, opting for the open trail once they do split trails. The dogs end up trapping the male mountain lion. The hunter shoots the mountain lion with the tranquilizer. The hunter thinks the mountain lion jumped and then escaped him after he takes off and runs. However, we find out that the tranquilizer pretty much put this mountain lion to sleep when he decided that I have no other chance other than to let these dogs catch me, or I've got to jump across this ravine. And he tries to jump across the ravine, half drugged, and falls to his death.
Yeah, so picture like you're jumping from the crest
Yeah.
of the Grand Canyon to the other crest of the Grand Canyon. So like that's like what they're jumping, basically.
However, the dogs stop in this area and the hunter sees it, but he sees there's like claw marks off the side, so he assumes that the mountain lion, has jumped to the other side, and he's like, wow, like this is a mountain lion.
We'll come back for it tomorrow.
Yeah. However, I guess he didn't realize, well, you already killed it, so they probably should just went home. That would have solved everything, but no, here we are. Somebody continued to write this book. So, um, this makes Sita the family provider and protector, putting a lot of strain on her. She does end up nabbing a turkey for the three kittens. The kittens, did you have something?
So it cuts to like they have to like live their life.
Mm-hmm.
And she has to become the provider and the mother and the everything. Um, but the three kittens are getting older,
Mm-hmm.
so like they're also venturing out. Like when she goes out to hunt, like the cubs also like venture out on their own.
Yes, I'm getting there.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was before that or after that.
Yep. So she nabs a turkey for the three kittens. The kittens eat, but then they leave the premises to run it off. So all this energy they just got from their food, they got to run that off. So Sita, meanwhile, has left again to find more food because, like Jeff said, the kittens are growing, so they're going to need more food. Plus, she's got to feed herself as well. So she's not around watching them like she was able to before. And then we see that the kittens have left the den. They're off adventuring. One of them finds a toad and becomes very interested by this toad
Yeah.
and finds out that it tastes really bad.
What if
All it did was lick it.
what if that
And then it just sits there like,
what if
whole
it became a princess and the princess and the frog just started? All right, back to you.
I don't know. Anyway. And then we have like a bird of prey that shows up and starts chasing one of the kittens. And keeps chasing the kittens. And keeps chasing the kitten. The kitten is hissing and batting at this bird of prey that's pretty much the same size of it. And then luckily mom is semi nearby, hears this, and comes to save the day. Could you imagine? You're a mountain lion. You're a kitten, though. But you're a mountain lion. And you meet your demise by a bird of prey.
I mean, everybody's got a predator.
This is why I don't like birds. Anyway,
If a
so
Wolverine showed up, it'd be all different. Or those stupid rams that ram their heads into each other.
we haven't got
There's
back
a
there.
there's a throwback from a million years ago.
Yeah, you're supposed to keep referencing that and you forgot.
It's because I rammed my head into one of those stupid rams. I don't even know what episode that was, but go back and listen to that episode. It
Back in there.
might be like a double-digit episode. Go ahead, back to you though. Keep going.
It was definitely a double-digit episode.
I meant like in like the teens, but it's not. We've got the list right now. It's I forget whatever. It is number 24, I think.
Close enough.
Stupid rams. But whatever, back to you.
Anyway, all right. So Sita then goes to the sheep herder, and he is telling the animals their fortunes with a
Yeah,
deck of
this was a
tarot cards.
weird scene. This scene did not need to be in this film at all, but go ahead.
I felt like it did. He has his tarot cards, and he reads Sita her fortune. The first card he draws is the Tower, and he says it's not off to a good start. And he tells her that there will be things ahead she cannot see. Then Justice reversed, and he says, "Oh, that's not good," because he says that just means the opposite. So there's basically means there's going to not be any justice for Sita. And then the Knight of Swords is the third card that he pulls, and he tells her that he doesn't like it and mentions the Hunter. And then the fourth card is the Devil, and he mentions music would be better than that. But he tells her that there will be much trouble. And then the fifth card is the Ten of Swords, and it means to fight, knife, gun, and cage of death. And he tells her that tonight is a full moon and tomorrow bring much trouble. Which technically is very true because the hunting party is planning on taking off tomorrow. So meanwhile, the hunter takes the hunting party on a tour of the land. So they're looking at everything and they're like, well, this is all nice and everything, but we didn't come here to look at the land. We came here to kill things. And then we go back to another scene with the sheep herder. He is sitting by like a little river area, and the kittens meet the sheep herder, and he ends up playing with one of them. And they end up playing together, and Sita comes with the other two kittens, and he tells her, "Hi, I'm playing with one of your kittens, and you have a very beautiful family." And then he tries to warn her to take her and her family far, far away because the hunters are coming, and tells her that he will pray for her.
Yep.
But then we go to the next scene where the sheep herder is back with the hunters, and he tells them that because they are asking, "Have you seen any mountain lions?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "There's one named Sita. She has 3 kittens, and she's my friend." And he also lets them know that he's warned her, but she doesn't understand. He then apologizes and then just walks away.
So this is this. I think, and I don't want to cut ahead. It's the scene with like the cage and the sign on the cage that makes the guy mad.
Yeah.
So like the hunter, for all he knows, is he missed the mate earlier. Obviously, he didn't know that the thing fell to its death. But so like they had built a cage to like bring the animals or to whatever to house the animals
Hmm.
in that before they could like prey them. And the other hunters had like made like a sign for it, like mocking the guy that he didn't get he hasn't caught any lions yet. So our sheep herder friend is upset about this. And but the hunters really upset that he is getting made fun of. But whatever,
Yeah.
back to you.
All right. So then the next day, the dogs are out on a chase again. This time they're chasing Sita and her 3 kittens.
Because now they know that there is one.
Well, they knew that there was another one because they had knew about her, but they were trying to find the mate again. Anyway, so the hunter ends up trapping Sita and darts her and brings her in. So the next scene, she is in a cage and the sheep herder comes and he's singing to her at nighttime.
Yeah, so they do dart her. Or well, first,
She's already been darted and carried back on a horse.
but first, the reason she's been darted is because the guy's not playing any games, and he put like a trap out, like a bear trap with no claws on it,
Yeah,
and some cat food to
he said cat in.
yeah, to like get her in. She gets caught. She gets tranquilized. She gets brought in. She's in the cage.
Yeah.
Back to you.
So the next morning, when the hunter unlocks the cage, the sheep herder makes it a point to tell him that she won't harm anybody. And they're all like panicking because like the sheep herder's just standing there with nothing on him and he's just gonna just blatantly open this cage. Because he's like, she's not gonna harm anybody. She never harms anybody. She only wants to go back and take care of her kittens. She never harms me out there. Like she's good. She's my friend, and she won't harm you either. So then he opens the door to the cage. She comes out and just starts to kind of run away slowly, like stalking away. And they're all kind of like looking at this, like, what are you kidding me? And then another one grabs his gun to start shooting at her. And the guy that has, I guess, the hunting business that's like running the party is like, no, put your gun down. You can't shoot right now. And then the sheep herder's kind of putting himself in the way, like, I'm telling you, like, what you're doing is wrong, basically. Don't kill her this way. Um, and then she takes off. He does shoot. He misses. He hits like a fence at the edge of the barn. Anyway, so Sita gets a head start at this point. Then they let the dogs out because they're terrible people. So the hunters then chase her with the dogs, but she does manage to give them the slip. She makes the jump that her mate didn't, and then the sheep herder is tending his sheep, and then we see that he's waving off to something in the distance, and then the camera goes into Sita and her kittens. The end.
Yeah, so you did kind of like anti-climax the chase scene. So it's a big chase scene.
It was a big chase scene.
They have
all I wanted to do was strangle people.
they have her cornered because she like runs like up a I don't know like up a like a rock ridge or whatever, and like they're chasing her, and they have her like in like the sights, and like they shoot her but they miss.
Yep.
And then she runs up to the corner and she's like, I have to make this jump.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a really big jump, and but she makes it. There's some awful CGI of her making the jump of this thing.
Yeah.
And then she waves to her friend, and that's the end of the film.
Yeah. Well, he waves to her.
Yeah.
She doesn't wave at him. I definitely never heard of it. Had we not planned on watching every single Disney movie ever, full-length films, I would have not watched this. It would have not been one of my pick movies. I don't like movies that make me feel this way. I mean, I don't agree with it, so I don't want to watch it. If anything, at that point, I feel like we should just set the hunters free, and we should also go out and have fair game. maybe tranquilize
Wow,
them and see how they do it.
What the animals do. I
Um,
just am shocked that we're still making these nature films. My goodness, Disney. You've been making these nature films since 1950.
yeah, and I kind of, I'm not gonna lie, when this film started, I was thinking that myself because in one of our previous films, they said that they weren't gonna do any more like boy and his dog films because those have like kind of like phased out and not really many people wanted to watch them. And I thought, who wants to watch this? This has phased out, Disney.
30 years later.
So
Or 20 years later.
hopefully there's not many more films like this. But it was a film. We watched it. I guess it had a good ending. Um, had some terrible middle things. The mate did not make it, unfortunately.
We rarely do in these films.
Yeah. Oh well.
The parents. We should have had a parent-die encounter.
Yeah.
So, what did you rate it? What did IMDb rate it?
So IMDb gave this a 5.7 out of 10. I originally gave it a 3.5, but IMDb won't let me put a 3.5 in, so I gave it a 4.
They do points all the time.
Yeah, I think they round it. They won't let you put a half in.
Oh.
So I gave it a 4. I'm gonna say, had the sheep herder not been the character he was, I would have gave it a solid 3. But the sheep herder did make the movie, and his love for animals and how kind he was to them and his relationship and interactions with animals kind of made the film for me. And I would say he is what rounded it up to a 4.
Hmm.
Aside from that, I would have definitely gave it a 3.
So, speaking of this animal movie,
It did not poach its way onto my list. There you go.
so then what is your list upon a star? And does every single film on your list upon a star also have an animal in it?
So 101 Dalmatians is number 1 on my list.
Have an animal in it.
Obviously has a bunch of dogs.
Okay.
Tons of Dalmatians. But a bunch of other dogs. The Parent Trap has a dog
And a horse.
and a horse, but a dog. Sleeping Beauty has an owl and some other fun animals. Dumbo has an elephant and a mouse and some crows. It's pretty adorable. If you've not watched it, I highly recommend it. Napoleon and Samantha.
As a lion.
A lion, which I did think was funny because in this last film that we just watched, it talked about how the mountain lion was the big cat of North America, and I thought about the mountain lion in that film that Major ran off, and it was probably like, what is this? Anyway, so yes, there was a animal there. There was also a horse. Wasn't there a horse in that one?
Yeah, and a chicken. Or
Oh yeah, a rooster
rooster.
and some chicken. The Jungle Book obviously has lots of animals. The Aristocats has a bunch of cats. Lady and the Tramp, a bunch of dogs and cats. Bedknobs and Broomsticks. There was a rabbit.
That's the only animal that you went with in the whole film? There was a cat that you said was there was
Ish.
okay, there's a whole animated feature of all the animals under the sea playing soccer.
Anyway, there was a bunch of animals in that one, but there was the guy, the main guy, older guy that turned into a rabbit. There was the cat, and then a lot of reused look like animations from Fantasia and Jungle Book of animals, and then that darn cat, which had a cat.
Yeah, I bet you.
So I guess I had an animal in every single one of
I
mine.
actually bet you that every single Disney movie that we watched so far has had an animal,
Okay, what is yours?
except
Look.
for probably Victory through Air Power, which I'd have to watch to see if
It probably did. No, it probably had a bird going through a propeller.
that's true.
I don't want to watch it again though.
My list upon a star is also saying the same. It is 101 Dalmatians. It is Mary Poppins. It is Peter Pan. It is Alice in Wonderland. It is Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It is Babes in Toyland. It is Napoleon and Samantha. It is the Aristocats. It is Pinocchio, and it is the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toe. Yeah, Alfred. The Adventures of Ichabod and
You
Miss
are
Toad.
drinking out of his face, and you can't even remember.
No, it's because I was like gonna make a pun about all the animals too, but I bet you that every single Disney feature line film that we watched so far has had an animal in it. So
Okay.
that being said, we made it through another film.
Babes in Toyland.
Oh, such a good film.
What was the animal in Babes in Toyland?
Uh, I mean, it was like a play. Remember, there was a bunch of animals, and there was like
I remember it being a
the
play, but I
Pied
don't.
Piper and the like.
Okay.
So
Birds.
um, either way, so our next film is Deep Dive number 108 of the 108th Disney Feature Lines film.
Making our way.
We speaking of making our way, it's the last film of the year 1972 from December of 1972. And it is a film that I've actually heard good things about called the Snowball Express, which I look forward to.
I've never heard of it, so
Yeah,
I'm
I've
kind
heard
of
good
interested
things.
to see what it is, but
I look forward to it. But either way, we are on Instagram.
Mhm.
Thank you for giving us a follow. We are on YouTube. Thank you for your likes and comments. We are on Spotify. If you could rate us, that'd be wonderful. Your thumbs up mean the world to us. We are also on, or if you want to send us an email about this film or any animal films or any Disney feature length films that don't have an animal in them that we might have missed, I don't think there is any. But that's deep diving the magic pod at gmail.com. Either way, thank you. And our next film is The Snowball Express, and I look forward to talking to you then.
thanks for deep diving the magic.
Bye.
Bye.